I am going to talk this evening about a film. It's called Blood from the Mummies 2, made in 1971. It's a really cool title, Blood from the Mummies 2. It's the reason I watched it, but I'm just going to let you know right now, spoiler alert, there's no mummy. I mean, it's about a person in a sarcophagus, and it's an Egyptian sarcophagus, but they're not embalmed or even wrapped in gauze. They were just put in there, and they're like perfectly preserved. It's not a mummy. They're like, yeah, come, but it's in a mummy's tomb, so, eh. This film was made, like I say, in 1971. It's sort of like a Hammer production with color and boobs and blood. You should not watch this film for any other reason than Valerie Leon, who plays Margaret. Oh, she also plays Tara, who is this evil queen goddess from the past. It's kind of a boring name, Tara, but they call her Terry. Anyway, she's played by Valerie Leon, and this chick is just fucking gorgeous. Whenever she's on camera, you're just spellbound by her. And she says shit. I don't really pay attention when she's talking. It doesn't make a lot of difference. It's just great in this movie. People will wander downstairs and stand next to her body, which is laying on a table, and she's dressed up like some sort of Egyptian queen. And her boobs are basically hanging out. She's got like a couple of jewels on her nipples, and that's it. People will just go and have a conversation, not with her. They won't even be looking at her, but she'll just be like next to them in the background. I gotta go into the room where her body is. There's no other reason to go into that room. It's underground. It's in the basement. So you have to go down there with purpose, which I'm just gonna go down there and mull next to her body and think about it. We'll talk more about this room later on. Let's try and start out with just the beginning of this film. It starts out really weird. I mean, if the title sequence is misleading, this is even more misleading. Space, stars, black. It looks like the opening of Star Trek or something. It just, very sci-fi. And then blood from the mummy's tomb! And all of the titles, it's just drifting through space and looking at galaxies and nebulas and different formations. And you know, I'll give it to you. There is some astrology in the stupid mummy's curse, and there always is. But it's only a very small part of it. I don't know why we open on this. And again, it's very misleading. It makes you think this is a sci-fi film, not a softcore porn/horror movie. This is going to be set in space or in the future. We immediately return way to the past. We get a cold open. And we're in Egypt, and there are people standing in a tomb. And there's a woman laying upon the table. We know her name's Tara. And they need to kill her because she's the Queen of Darkness, or I guess they've already killed her. I'm not really sure what's going on. She's just laying there and she's out cold. And they're like, you know, she has evil supernatural witch powers. She's an ass, and we need to keep her dead. And the only way to do it is to make sure her body is incomplete. So what are we going to do? Are we going to chop off her head? Are we going to chop off her legs? Are we going to chop her into a bunch of pieces? Grind her up into spaghetti? No, we're going to chop off her hand. They cut her hand off, and now she's powerless. This is a dumb vulnerability. This is a pretty stupid problem for her to have. And it's not even really a problem because they don't get rid of her hand. It comes crawling back. It comes crawling back immediately. They're like, as long as her hand is disconnected, she's, you know, totally, she's rendered powerless. She can't re-enter her body. She's in an astral plane where she can kill people just as easily, probably more easily. I don't really know why she has to be in her body to do any of the stuff she does in this movie. She does it as a ghost or as a dust devil or something. Wind will come into the room and whip up and murder! And it starts here because they cut off her hand. They're like, we're taking the hand outside. And are they going to throw it in the river? Are they going to burn it? Or no, they throw it. They chuck it. They chuck it like a couple yards and a bunch of dogs pounce on it. They're like, yep, eat up! That's the hand of the accursed Queen of the Damned. And they turn around and they walk back in, and you can bet she ain't happy about this. She's like, wow, you cut off my hand and fed it to dogs, you bastards. I'm gonna fucking sand whip you. Like a bunch of wind comes rolling in, and it... I'm not really sure what the procedure is. Most of the deaths in this movie are pretty PG and very ill-defined. So they're wandering around in the wind, and unseen claws are clawing at him, and they really like going for the neck. When people die in this movie, they usually fall over and someone's been biting at their neck. The poltergeists really like going for the neck, or the spirits, or the gods, or whoever they are. Now, besides getting rid of her hand, they also had to get rid of her name. But there's a ring that's on the hand they threw away that has her name on it. They forgot about that. So these guys didn't do their jobs well, or I don't know. I guess they did it as well as they could. But then we move forward in time, and we see the same actress who played this chick who was laying on the slab, Tara, now playing Margaret. And she's the daughter of an Egyptologist, a guy who went and discovered Tara's tomb. We'll talk about this later. Anyway, right now she's hanging out with her boyfriend, Todd. And Todd is very fashionable. He's a Londonite from the 60s. And you know, also Margaret dresses fancy, and they just do this around the house. They'll get done up like they're going out to a restaurant or the movie theater. And then they'll lounge around on the bed, and Margaret might eat a banana. Who knows? Margaret's not always wearing a lot of clothes, actually. Pardon me. Sometimes she'll just wander around in lingerie. She'll do that. She'll just wander around. She'll get up at night and she'll be like, I'm going to leave my room. I'm going to go downstairs. Maybe I'll visit the mummy. Because, by the way, she's at home, too. She's downstairs. We'll find out about that. But, you know, she'll go visit her. Maybe she'll go visit her dad. She'll just wander around, and there'll be wind going through her hair while she's in the basement. And she's, like, walking in slow motion, and there's light on her face, like she's Morticia Addams. She's kind of dark complexioned like that, and very lusty-eyed. She's got the heavy lids. I sleep with all my makeup on. Ooh. She'll walk around. Oh, man, I love her. She makes the film. Those are the best moments in the movie, I gotta say. It's not the throwing the hand to the dogs. And again, by the way, it crawls back into the tomb. It doesn't reattach. There's this whole astrology thing where, you know, however many years after her tomb was discovered, the stars align. It's the Big Dipper. Can I just point that out? It's the Big fucking Dipper. That's what they're showing us. That's the star constellation. When the Big Dipper appears, then Tara will return. It's a very special holiday that only occurs, you know, every 3,000 years. So they're talking on the bed. Again, she's eating a banana, maybe. And she's got this huge-ass fucking ring on her finger. And Todd grabs her hand to do something, and he's like, wow, I didn't notice that. It's a gigantic, like, ruby or some sort of red diamond. It's comically big. Like, it's just nothing you would ever wear. She's like, yes, do you want to take a look at it? And my dad gave it to me. It was on the hand of a mummy, a disembodied hand. I don't know why her dad gave this to her. Later on, she muses about it. She's talking with her dad, who's kind of semi-lucid. He's not really responding. He keeps trying to get a promise that she's not going to fuck around with the mummy, and she's not giving it to him. But she's sitting there musing. She's like, why did you give it to me, Father? Maybe it was to give me her power, to protect me. From what, by the way? Because she's apparently involved in Tara's resurrection, but they never explain how. So she's like, yeah, he gave me this to get me involved in the horror and, you know, so the screaming can start. Yeah, that's cool, love. And then they go to see his friend, who I guess is an Egyptologist too. I mean, knows her dad. They discovered the tomb together. He was part of the mission. I'll talk about this group of people in just a moment, but it's kind of funny because we're introduced to the area, like, I think it's a museum or a depot of some kind, but when the sarcophagi are a-rockin', don't come a-knockin'. This guy is sitting there, he's examining something with a little microscope thing. He's like, oh my goodness, this was from the Djoser dynasty, the Old Kingdom, or the Middle Kingdom, who knows? And then Todd comes up and he goes, hey, take a look at this ring. He sees the Big Dipper. It's glowing. Oh my god. I know exactly what that means. Didn't you see the opening credits of the film, guys? Did you catch the Big Dipper in there? I'm not going back to find out if they showed that. I mean, it would have gone right by me. And she comes walking out of the darkness and she's like, hey, baby, what do you think? And he faints. He starts having like a weird... I wouldn't call it fainting. That's not what it is. It's way more spastic. Like he's having a seizure. He falls over. Like he goes on the ground. He's having a stroke. Like a piece of plaque broke loose in his neck and it floated up into his brain and gave him an aneurysm. And he's freaking out. And then later on, I don't know, he recovers. Like, it cuts to her sitting on the bed. She's like, hitting her face with a cucumber. She's, I'll get to biting into this eventually. Ooh, ooh. God, what do you think happened to him? Like, do you think he's okay? Do you think I should apologize? I can't really tell if it was my fault. And would owning up to it in that case make it weirder? I don't know. I think he's probably fine, whatever. And you know what? They have no reason to worry. He's back at his office again. He's like, yeah, just seeing you, babe. I didn't expect it. I mean, she pops by later. He has the same fucking reaction the whole second time around. He's like, whoa, whoa! He's seen the mummy or whatever. So he knows they look the same. And the first time around, he thinks, yeah, that might be Tara come back from the dead in a really nice coat from H&M. Really? Why would she come back dressed like that? Like Felicity Shagwell. Why would she be doing that? She would be wearing her Queen of the Damned shit. She wouldn't be looking all trendy like she's dating Todd. So we cut to Margaret, and she's having a dream. She's having a dream that she could not possibly have because she wasn't there. It's a flashback. I don't know why they're passing it off as a dream. She's sitting there, her boobs are perky. They're looking nice. They're powdered, and they're shifting back and forth. And, and she's wearing, like, lingerie again. You can see her nipples through it. Ooh, it's so hot in here. And then we cut to her dream, which, again, I think is more appropriately a flashback because it's something her dad did. It was discovering the tomb of Tara. And they go in, the whole group of people. There's a couple people. And they open the sarcophagus, and they look in, and there she is! She's beautiful! Her beauty transcends the ages. It defies all physics. They're like, meh. People at NASA freak out when they discover bands of clouds or tornadoes on Uranus. And that's all it takes. And they found a perfectly preserved, I don't know, I mean, she's not a mummy. The fact that she's not a mummy and she's in there is weird enough. No one's amazed. I mean, they are curious. They're like, we'll have to find out why this happened because people are going to ask. People are going to have questions and we're going to need to have answers. Because we were first on the scene and, oh, wait, there's the hand. They find that on the floor. They're like, oh, there it is. Now, in the cave, there are 3 relics of some kind. What they represent, what they're about, I don't know, just anything about them, any of the information about why they're there, how they're used, or when they were made, or whatever is not included. They're just 3 things. One of them's a snake. One of them is a skull, like a cow skull or something. I'm not sure how that's a relic. And then there's also one that's like a cat statue. And these menacing artifacts were then divvied up amongst the group of people that discovered it. They all took one. Like, later on, they're like, yeah, we all had to take one to keep her from reassembling or something. I don't know. It seems flimsy. They're like, we all want a souvenir, so we're all going to take a piece. And you better believe Tara's coming back for him. Now, we're going to cut to someone right here, and we're only going to cut to her briefly, and I guarantee you, by the end of the movie, when she reappears, you'll have forgotten who I'm talking about. But it's one of the people in the group. It's a woman. There needs to be more. There's only one on the team, and she's not even black. But you know what's interesting is that Tara's arm starts bleeding. Like, it starts bleeding, like blood starts coming out of it, and that's gross. And everyone's like, whoa, that's something weird. And not only is she perfectly preserved, but now she's bleeding too. And she notices this before anyone else. She's like, oh, God, ooh, dear, this just got serious. And then we flash forward, and what is she doing? What do we find her doing? Fortune telling? I gotta say, man, the people on this team, where they end up, like the paths their lives took, just devolved in each of them going crazy, just in their own special way. She's in her house. She's at a table, round table, small little baby table. She's got a crystal ball. She's got it sitting in a little cradle. And she's got a fucking Houdini turban on her head. And she's... And there's a woman sitting across from her. What can you tell me about my father? Where's the money? She's asking for a sign, and this woman, who I was to understand was an archaeologist, a scientist, is looking into her crystal ball. Well, I think things are going to be okay. The money is stored somewhere safe. What is this? This is her future? I could see it the other way around. Like, she graduated from this. She ended up going to night school and got a degree and didn't have to fucking do this shit anymore. But no, she was like, yeah, I discovered tombs in Egypt. I was involved in some big expeditions and I got credentials. I used to work at the Cairo Museum and now I'm telling people's fortunes in my house. She's like, yeah, I discovered I'm clairvoyant. It just happened one day. So now I have magic powers, and I'm reading people's thoughts and their palms, and I'm telling them shit I see in this crystal ball. She sees something. She's like, it's the Big Dipper. Oh no, that's something bad. And she tells the woman that she invited into her house. Like, I think this is her session. She paid, right? Get out. Get out! We'll see you next time. And she makes up bullshit. She's like, the signals aren't working or the frequencies are jammed. I don't know. The crystal has gone dark. She's like, I lie to you all the time. I'm lying to you right now. Get out, get out. And the woman grabs her coat and leaves in a fluster. She's like, oh no, thank goodness. Oh God, she stares at the crystal. I need to emphasize nothing happens. I don't know why that woman had to leave. As long as the crystal is stuck on this channel, I can't tell you anything about your husband or the money. It's just stuck on this weird little dipper thing, which, again, means something. She has one of the artifacts. She has the cat statue. We visit this other dude who was also in this dream. This guy literally became crazy. He went to the madhouse for no explained reason. They never explain what happened. They're like, yeah, he too was a professor of archaeology, of Egyptology specifically. He went on expeditions and a lot of notoriety, a lot of pomp and pageantry, got the Nobel Prize, and then just, I don't know, went fucking loony one day. It is so violent and unpredictable that we have to lock him in a room with a straitjacket on at night and shit. But he's also reading books all the time, and we let him keep his weird artifact, which is the snake. Another person named Korbic, he was there. He didn't get an artifact. I think that's interesting. No one gave him one. He doesn't have one. And he's the one who wants to bring her back. He's like the one person who didn't take an artifact. I think that's because he's a pussy. He knew she'd come after him. And again, the dude, the Egyptologist who works at the museum, he's got one. He's got the skull. Now, Margaret's dad ends up having a freak out downstairs in the basement. Margaret wakes up from her dream, the one that's really a flashback. Oh, goodness! What's going on? Father! She runs downstairs. My nipples are hard with impending debacle. They knock and they open the door and they go downstairs. This is a room no one's allowed to go into. She's never been in there in her whole life. I gotta say, man, this is so weird. It's the tomb. It's Tara's tomb, recreated in his basement for no reason. They never explain why they did this. They recreated the entire tomb, painted the walls, the architecture has been duplicated, everything's arranged the same. Why did he do this? Why? On one side of the room, there's a mop and a bucket and a brick wall and a weird red light and a lava lamp. And so, like, on one side of the room, but most of it was done out to look like her tomb for no reason. Is this scientific? Later on, Todd comes downstairs and, to stand next to her body and read her dad's diary. He's like, man, come and stand here and read next to you, babe. Just taking the view as I turn the pages. He reads and then tells Margaret, your dad was very tortured by all of this, whatever this is. Nothing happened. Why is he so upset about everything? He's like, it was just a really difficult time for your dad, and he doesn't want to talk about this kind of thing. He wants to forget about it. And he reconstructed her fucking tomb in his basement? When he wakes up later, no one asks him. No one inquires. This is what he's been doing. I don't see how it's scientific or how it's any sort of study. And they find him laying on the ground next to Tara. She's laying up there, her hands chopped off, and she's looking good. And they run over, they flip him over, and they see that the ghost has been scratching at his neck, but it didn't scratch him too bad. He's not dead. And Todd's like, I'll go get help. And so he runs out of the room, and Margaret's holding her dad, and she's like, oh, Dad, well, I gotta say, this is pretty interesting. I had no idea this was here. She gets up, wanders around. She just drops him on the floor. Is me holding him and putting pressure on anything going to really help? Nah, he's fine. And so she walks around, taking in the sight. She totally forgot about him. She's like, And the last thing she looks at is the woman sitting on the table. Can I emphasize that? The woman sitting on the table that looks just like her. and then is wearing weird-ass Egyptian Nubian princess shit. That's the last thing that catches her attention. Look at this weird candelabrum, and look at this chair, and look at this depiction on the wall of reeds on the River Nile, and oh, look, the Egyptian queen that's been perfectly preserved. And after this, they go to visit the crazy dude to find out what's going on. And, they want information. Because he knew her dad, and her dad's out cold, man. He's upstairs in his room. He had a shock. How did that cause... I don't... They're like, he has an animal wound on his neck. It was shock. It was nerves. She's like, well, it makes sense, I guess. I don't really care. They go to see the crazy dude. They want to get information. I don't know what they think they're going to get. They slide open the bolts. They're like, there he is. He's tethered to the wall by a dog collar. Ask him about Egyptology. I'm sure he remembers all that shit. So they walk in. They're like, hey, how's it going? What's up, man? We need to know what happened with this mummy with Tara down in the basement. I mean, we know she's not a real mummy. I think that's the only way to put it. So Margaret comes up with a plan. She's like, here, let me deal with this. I am Tara! You know who I am. Are you afraid? She's antagonizing him, poking at him, and she's saying spooky, cryptic shit. She's like, tell me what I want to know, or I will see you dead! And he's freaking out. He's scared. And Todd runs forward and is like, can you stop shouting and intimidating the schizophrenic person? Oh, sorry, I don't know what came over me. I think I'm being possessed by Tara, but she's not. These are two separate people. And some of the time, she seems to be, I don't know, Margaret possessed by Tara. She kind of makes that claim, but I don't think she ever really is. She'll just kind of go around and do malevolent shit out of nowhere, antagonistic stuff like that. She'll pretend to go into a trance and zone out. She'll do weird shit, but then later she'll be like, no, I'm my own person. No one possesses me. In a moment here, she wakes up in the middle of the night and goes downstairs. Because, now that wing of the house is open. She's like, I got a lot of meandering down there and time to make up for having never been in the basement. So she goes downstairs. She's doing Vampira thing. She walks downstairs and looks around and walks over to Tara's body. Oh, this is where we get the slow motion and the wind going around. She suddenly hears Corbett. He pops up. He's like, hey, I was hiding in the basement. You're not allowed in our house. Yeah, I got a key, though. And I was just chilling in your basement with all the lights turned off. And this, do you know why he did this? This seems weird. Todd, help! And Todd he goes looking everywhere but the basement. He goes up into her bedroom. Are you in there? He goes into the kitchen. Are you in there? He goes into the bathroom. Are you in here? By the time he gets to the basement, she's not even interested anymore. She's like, oh, nah, I've been talking to him for a while. I'm intrigued by his proposition to bring back Tara. It's weird. He's interested in bringing her back from the dead or resurrecting her, which, by the way, is going to happen anyway, but he wants to do it on his terms. He wants to read the scroll. So then they can control her power. They can, I don't know. He's like, she is beyond good and evil. She can unlock gateways into knowledge of some kind. I don't know. I want to use her power to make $5 million. So he's like, I'm evil. I've gone crazy too. I'm crazy just like everyone else. Then we decide to go back to the mental institution to check out what's going on with Bennigan, the dude we saw, the guy that's gone crazy for no reason. We need to get his artifact back. We need to get the snake. We need to get them all back for no reason. I don't know. Corbett tasks Margaret and himself, I suppose, with collecting them, but they really don't go and do it themselves. Some weird astral force goes and does it and claws at people's necks. So, we're at the sanitarium at night and people are screaming and hollering and hooting like owls and baying like dogs for no reason. It's weird. Like the jailers are, I don't know what they are. They're really cynical and mean. Well, it's nighttime and there they start up again. They walk away. And this means that if anyone's screaming because they're dying, no one's going to come help them. So Bennigan's in his room. He's tied down to the bed. He's wiggling around. He's screaming, but that's not because anything's happening yet. I don't even remember how it happens. I think his window just bursts open. Wind whips about the room! No! And a dust devil comes whipping in, and the cabinet opens. The snake statue comes out. Okay, this is where it gets PG and a little ridiculous. We see its shadow, but it's the shadow of the snake statue. It's like they put it on a skateboard and pulled it along with a string, and we get to see the shadow of that moving along the wall. With lightning flashing and papers whipping about. No! And then it goes like someone taps him with it. Again, because it doesn't move or flex or anything. It's the statue still. It's the laziest fucking thing I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, the prop guy went home for the day. I guess we're just gonna have to use this one. So, he's dead. Not that the snake biting him killed him. The clawing at the neck thing killed him. The snake retreats, and his neck has been ripped open. What killed him? Why did the snake have to jump forward and kiss him or something? I mean, if he got his neck ripped open and clawed open like those Egyptian people. Okay, so he's dead, and he had to die to get that artifact back. And her dad wakes up eventually. He gets better. He's like, wow, I came out of my neck coma, or the thing on my neck is healed, so I'm better. What happened? She's like, you had a shock. It made your neck blow up. She's like, why did you give me the ring? Why are you dragging me into this? Your mom died when you were born, which was the moment I discovered the mummy's tomb. And did you see her hand bleeding? Yeah, I saw her stump. It's bleeding. He tells her a little bit about the mummy. He's like, her body has been preserved for thousands of years using her magic. Not alive, not dead. In suspended animation. Although, for some reason, there's blood leaking out of her arm. Her heart's pumping and there's blood moving about her body. But she's dead. She's on her way! She's coming home! So her body's getting ready. It's greasing itself up. But that doesn't make any sense for that argument, that she's in suspended animation of some kind. The time is approaching. And her dad's like, promise me that you won't try to wake up the mummy and, help out Korbic. She turns and walks away because she never promises him. She just kind of wanders off. She goes to the window and she's like, I gotta say, my bustier isn't really giving me the boost I've been looking for. He must have given me this ring so I can have her power to protect myself against I don't know what. Because I'm the one who's causing hell around here. She has to go visit that Egyptologist, that other friend that she freaked out. And she goes over to his office and walks on in. She's like, hey, Paleo, what's going on? I want the artifact! He starts backing up. He's freaking out. She's like, I don't want to see you die. I just want what's mine. What will help Tara come back to life. And he crawls out the window and, I don't know, falls off of something. Todd comes running in to find out what's going on. He goes out the window, he looks around, and then we hear some pipes banging around. And there he is! He's laying on the ground and he's dead. And his neck's been bitten at. It's like, what, did a Rottweiler get him? And the artifact is gone. It's been teleported back to the tomb! Replica. I like how the artifact knows where it needs to go. It doesn't go back to Egypt where it came from. It goes to the dude's basement. She's like, I was out shopping. Go look inside the house if you wish, but you won't find anything. I mean, she's working, I guess, with Korbic now. Is she evil? Again, every now and then she'll drift off into these weird cryptic monologues where Korbic will be talking to her. He rents a house across the street, an empty house, and lives there or spies on them from there. He keeps it totally empty on purpose, and he talks to her in there. She comes on over, zoned out. She's like, I might be Tara right now. Maybe. Try me. And he's telling her, he's like, do you want it all? What would you do to have power flowing through your veins like you've never thought possible? I want it all! I would murder! Okay, well, I didn't say we have to murder. Well, I would if you needed me to. I'd chop a hand off. And so she's been recruited. But then sometimes she'll be like, no, Todd, I want to help you. And at a certain point, Todd finds out, I suppose, that they must be involved in these murders. And they confront Korbic and her downstairs. I think she might have wandered down there. She's in her lingerie again, eating a banana. And then they have a little standoff, and Todd's like, I'm gonna go take action. I forget what he threatens him with. He's just like, I'm gonna stop you guys. And he runs out of the room, and she's like, you don't understand, Todd. Todd, no, you'll die too! She just got done saying she didn't kill anyone, and now she's like, you'll fucking die! She doesn't mean that he's gonna die, like, you know, sometime in the future. It's like, you're gonna die right now. And then it cuts to her screaming. Like, we just hear her screaming, long and loud, like she's a wolf. It cuts to him, and he's in his car, but he's not driving. I don't know what this is. It's like a bunch of static shots of him posing, like he's getting into a car accident, but the car isn't moving. So it's a bunch of choppy shots of him going, and then the car crashes into a tree. Doesn't even matter, because again, the thing that kills him is the ghost scratching at his neck, or ghosts, whatever they are, the spirits. Osiris himself scratched his neck up and killed him. So he got into a weird mime car accident, and she did it. She was screaming the whole time. She feels bad about it afterwards. She's crying. They haven't moved, by the way. They've been standing there next to her body the whole time. It gave him time to get in his car, drive off a little bit, and she was screaming for like 20 minutes, I guess. She's like Kenny G. She can hold a note. Korvac is like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you screamed like a witch and caused him to flip out of control and then be attacked by spooks. I don't know. Don't feel bad. And her dad upstairs is the same as her, man. He and Korvac have their own sort of weird secret pact that they know this has to happen. They're like, it's inevitable. Regardless of whether or not we participate in her resurrection, it's going to happen anyway, but we want to participate in it. It's another one of those things where they contradict themselves in the middle of what they're talking about. What's funny is that they're setting it all up, but they also need to get this one last artifact back. And so Korvac is talking to Margaret's dad, and he's like, you know you have to participate tonight. You know you have to sacrifice your daughter, or she has to participate somehow. I know you gave her the ring, but it definitely didn't protect her. You're a bad dad. And where is she right now anyway? And he's like, oh, she's upstairs. I'm having the doctor sedate her, keep her knocked out, because she, for whatever reason, she can't be conscious at this ritual. She's totally conscious and aware and awake and doing fine later on at the ritual. So I don't see why she had to be asleep. But he's like, no, she really should be asleep. So just a little dose of Madam Morphine will fix this. And the doctor turns around to give it to her, and she's standing. The girls are looking great, man. They're looking perky, and she's in her in her lacy Victoria's Secret outfit again. She likes dark colors. She likes black. That's her favorite kind. And she's like, hey, boy, do I make you aroused? Do I scare you? Or a little combination of both? I just want to inject this into you, madame. She walks forward, and she pushes him out the window. It's probably the most violent death in the whole film. She's like, here you go, and she pushes him out, and it's like an old Western. He comes flying out backwards in slow motion. Wee-hoo! And across the street, Korvac is in his house, and he's like, oh, shit. Yeah, appears that she's killed the doctor, and she wandered off. Where did she go? They muse, and they're like, I think, well, where else could she have gone? To the fortune-telling parlor to get back the final artifact. She went to go see our friend, the fortune-teller. We haven't talked with her at all. At least these other people in the group were involved with the story. She's just some total random extra character who's off doing tarot reading, doing her Miss Cleo shit. Yeah, she's gonna go talk to her. And apparently she's within walking distance because Tara, Margaret, whoever she is now, just runs in her nightgown barefoot. She runs through the woods. She's doing her thing, waving her ring around, and then she gets up to the cottage, and we enter a scene that is something that I still cannot figure out. A person answers the door. It is not the woman. It is her partner, her manservant, a weird client that she's friends with. I don't know. I mean, the hands that come out have long, red, press-on fingernails, but it's a dude who looks like Mario Cantone. He's like, we have a visitor. Do you have an appointment? She comes walking in. She's like, help me. Help me. I'm being possessed by the Queen of the Damned. Oh my God. The turban falls off. I know what you want. You want the Anubis statue, the cat statue. You can't have it. I'll defend it to the death. And she picks up a fire poker and comes running at Margaret. She kind of jumps her shit. And Margaret's like, I'm standing my ground. I got boundary issues. And she pushes her back with the power of her mind or something. The woman's like, oh, never mind. She drops the fire poker. Do you want the statue? You can have it. It's right over here. She walks into the cupboard and takes it out. She's like, there you go. Keep it next to the beer steins. Margaret's like, thank you very much. You've done well. Now I'll lean down and rub it. Like, she kind of puts her hands around it. Like, she thinks maybe she'll pick it up. And then she's like, you know what? I'll let the spirits do that. She's like, I got people coming to move it. I got some ghosts. They're going to come by and they'll probably murder you. I mean, no promises. They come in the form of a weird dust devil. And what's funny, too, is the guy that dressed like Shakespeare with the weird press-on fingernails that are candy apple red and the weird face. Yeah, he dipped. He jumped out behind Margaret when she walked in. So he's gone. He doesn't... Who was he? And she's like, Margaret, are you going to stick around to watch me die? And she's like, no, I don't. Again, I think the ghosts have this. So she leaves. And we'll talk about what she goes and does in a moment, because it's extremely odd. But back at the cottage, even weirder things are happening. We know that this woman's going to die. Her character is worthless. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to the statue. Margaret didn't take it with her. The woman's like, is the statue going to kill me? Is the dust devil going to kill me? Like, she's looking at it. She's feeling a headache or a concussion coming on. Then she starts screaming. And the wind starts whipping her and blood starts appearing on her face. No! Statue is doing nothing. I gotta say, man, this is beyond lame. I could have done this when I was in 4th grade. And outside, Margaret is running around in a circle because she comes back to the cottage. Corbick and her dad, they go looking for her and they find the woman laying dead on the floor. Again, they're not really interested. They're like, oh, well. Oh, hey, Margaret, I smelled your perfume. What's going on? I just had to go air out in the field, or that took a lot out of me. What was she doing? She's like, can you get me a cab or something? Can you help me get home? I don't want to have to run all the way back barefoot. And so they go back home. Now they have all of the artifacts, whatever that means, and the stars are aligned, whatever that means. And now they're going to bring back Tara, whatever that means. I guess Margaret doesn't have to be asleep because she's standing there. They've got the lamps. They have the scroll. You know, I don't know. There's kind of a last-minute attempt by her dad to try and sway Corbick that they should just let Tara come back naturally. And I don't know what he's arguing for. He's like, let's just stay out of it. Even though I gave this ring to my daughter and got her all fucking involved, I still can't tell if she's possessed. She's over there like, she's hedging her bets. Corbick's like, no, you will not convince me. I am bloodthirsty. And she's going to give it to me. So I'm going to read the scroll of Anubis. He gets up there and he starts reading. He's like, Mama, Nama, Nuba, Gooba, Duba, Jiba. Margaret and her dad are laying on the ground. They're kind of bent over, like in prostration. They start talking and, you know, they realize they're not committed to this. They went to all the trouble to get to this moment. And then they're getting cold feet. They're like, I don't know, Corbick, we might have to call this off. Because they just noticed that her hand, they placed it next to her body and it reattached. So she's like, I'm whole again! I can come back! That's when they're like, we've had it. And so they have to go stop him from reading the scroll. She's like, we have to stop him from reading the scroll! They go up there and her dad grabs Corbick and starts strangling him. And then she comes up with a dagger and stabs him. Go up and knock the scroll out of his hand. That's all you have to do. But no, man, they went up there and fucking murdered him together. They went just Charles Manson on him, and they're like, we went crazy. And it doesn't even matter because Tara's already up and at him. She's like, Tara, that's my name. Don't wear it out. Oh, now, I am back in my body. With both of my hands. This just makes her more vulnerable because Margaret and Dad turn around and pounce on her and she kills Dad. She like chokes him and throws him aside and he's done for. But Margaret takes the knife and starts... She stabs her and that's it. Man, go to all that trouble to get your hand back and get risen from the dead after all that time and to just get stabbed. She's like, and she falls back. I don't think that her costume could stay on. Like, it just seems like it's laid on top of her. You know what I mean? I don't think she can really get up fully with it on anyway. So she falls over and she's dead. And Margaret, she also has been kind of asphyxiated, sort of. She was being choked by Tara. And then, for absolutely no reason, the house starts collapsing. So the fake temple starts falling apart. Someone's angry. I can't be Tara because she's dead. It's not just like we see a couple of things fall and then we fade off into the next day. We see shit falling on them. I mean, it must be prop wooden beams and rocks and dust, but they get buried. And I thought, okay, that would be the end of it. Or maybe we would see the hand crawling away. Here, I'll be back. But no, we get something totally different. I don't know if this is supposed to be ironic or not, but we're in the hospital, and the nurse is like, oh yeah, she came in last night, doctor. More dead than alive. Well, she's alive now. She was alive then. Sorry, that was confusing. She's been alive the whole time, but she was almost dead. And now she's doing a little better, but we had to wrap her up completely. That's so funny. Her hands are both wrapped and her head's wrapped. I mean, the only reason we know it's a her is, well, first of all, they did her eyeliner. She was the only one that wasn't crushed beyond recognition. She can't tell us her name, really. Who knows? First of all, the reason she can't tell them her name is because they've wrapped her head up. She's like trying to, through the gauze. Like, she can't tell us her name, it must be a head injury. Wrapped up like a mummy. It would be more realistic if she were a mummy, because there is no way she escaped that with bruises and cuts and broken bones. She was fucking buried under huge beams and rocks and metal and stuff. But apparently she survived, and she's not doing well. They wrapped up her head, and now she can't talk. What does she have to say, anyway? She's a liar. Don't listen to her. She was complicit in some of the murder that took place, and I don't think she ever owned up to it. So she's sitting there with her face bandaged up, looking like a mummy, I guess. And that's it. And then the credits start rolling. And blood from the mummy's tomb, as it were. It's just a terrible movie. I mean, it's a vehicle to watch Valerie Leon walk around. And again, watch it. Watch it for her. They do a great job of shooting her, and she's just fucking hot as hell. And she's not terrible at acting. They don't give her much of a chance. It's like saying, we want to see you swim well, but we're going to have you do it in chocolate pudding.